Hey guys, welcome to Rosie's Dessert Spot. In this tutorial we'll be creating this fun half fondant and half buttercream engagement cake. I've used an 8-inch cake, a 6-inch and a 4-inch. For the 8-inch I've filled it and now I'm creating a crumb coat using a vegan frosting. So this is just like regular buttercream, but in place of unsalted butter I'm using vegetable shortening. Smooth it out, bring that lip of frosting to the center, and then pop it into the fridge for 20 minutes just to set. For my 6-inch and my 4-inch, I've gone in with dark chocolate ganache as the crumb coat and also as the final layer of frosting. Recipe for the buttercream and for the ganache will be linked in the description box below and in the eye icon up top. Smooth it out, bring a lip of frosting to the center and refrigerate till it's nice and firm, about 20 minutes. Do the same for your 4-inch. And ganache is a really good medium to use under fondant, that's why I've used it for these two cakes. Taking out my 8-inch, now it's nice and firm, I'm creating a final layer of frosting just on the top. You can see I didn't apply any extra frosting to the sides, and that's because it's going to get covered up by the rosettes, so there's no need to use extra frosting here. Take a 1M piping tip and create little rosettes. And if the sizes aren't consistent and it bugs you, honestly, just scrape it off and start again. It's a very forgiving design. Start in the center and draw a ring around it to make a small rosette. Once you've piped your first row, start up top for your second row and aim each rosette in between two of the previous rosettes. And that way it just covers the whole cake and you won't be able to see in between because the in-between sections are covered. Into the fridge she goes to set for 20 minutes and now we can apply our final layer of ganache on both the 4-inch and the 6-inch. You want to make sure that this layer is super neat and smooth because it will reflect in the fondant when you smooth it on there. If there's any blemishes, it could potentially show through. Pop it into the fridge to set for 30 minutes with that lip raised so that we can cut it off with a hot knife. This creates a really nice and sharp edge. Follow the exact same steps again for your 4-inch cake. Pop these back into the fridge to harden for another 20 minutes. In the meantime, we can prepare our fondant. I like to use Baker's brand of fondant. I find it's the most flexible and it doesn't rip as easily as many other brands. But I want it to be teal colored, so I've squirted in a whole bunch of teal gel food color by Queen. And before I knead it on my surface, I'm going to roll it up on itself, stretch it out, twist it, and continue that momentum. When it's more or less completely combined, I'll knead it. Use some cornstarch to make sure it doesn't stick to my counter and keep adding until I get the desired color. Roll it out to about 3 millimeters or so in thickness, constantly putting on cornstarch as it becomes super sticky. Roll it out to 3 millimeters and then drape it over your cake, but first you want to add some vegetable shortening onto the surface of your ganache so that it sticks, so the fondant sticks better to your cake. If you don't have vegetable shortening, you could always spray it ever so lightly with a little bit of water. Press out any air from the top, grab your fondant, pull out the pleats and massage your fondant onto your cake. Cut off the excess at the bottom. And then knead this extra fondant and place it into a Ziploc bag, completely airtight so you can reuse it for another project. Grab 2 fondant smoothers and smooth out the sides of your cake and the very top edge. The sharper your ganache edge was, the sharper your fondant edge will be. Originally, I wanted to create a quilted pattern on this middle tier, but I couldn't find my quilt at all. I even went to the shops to try to find one and they didn't have any, so I had to improvise. I took a cookie cutter and I just embossed little circles all over my cake, 2 rows, the second row starting in between 2 from the previous row, just like our rosettes. Where each circle met its neighbor side by side, I created little indents of circles, and that way I had somewhere to press my edible driggy into. But first I created a little X on these circles to make it look a bit more realistic, as if the driggy had created an imprint. It's kind of cushion-like. It makes it look a bit more like a cushion sort of effect. Apply a little bit of water in each of the holes to help stick your driggies. Now pop mine back into the fridge for 15 minutes so that my ganache could firm up again, and that way I could handle it easier when assembling it onto my bottom tier. Take 3 colors of fondant, roll them into logs, press them into each other, and then give them a twist to start that marbled effect. You can roll it in on itself again, roll it into a log another time, and really deepen that marble effect. I didn't want it to be too marbled, so I only stopped at about 2 twists, and then roll it out to about 3 millimeters in thickness using some cornstarch to make sure that it rolls out evenly and it doesn't stick to your countertop. Check the other side. Sometimes a marble pattern looks nicer on the underside, but I decided to stick with the top side in the end. Drape it over your cake, press out any air at the very top, and just repeat the same steps as your 6-inch. Press the fondant down with a fondant smoother just to make sure that it reaches the very base of the cake, and then cut off the excess, smoothing out the sides and the top with 2 fondant smoothers. This one is also going in the fridge for 15 minutes just to firm up that ganache. You'll want to apply dowels into your 6-inch and your 8-inch, and then stick these together with some frosting. For some reason my camera didn't record when I was adding the dowels into my base tier, but here it is in the 6-inch. So these are bubble tea straws, pressed all the way down, and then I'm cutting it where it meets flush with the top of the cake. I've used 4 at the base and 3 at the top in a triangular formation. Stick on your last tier with some frosting again, and now I'm going to steam it. If you have buttercream, be super careful that the heat doesn't reach the bottom tier. Mine ended up just fine. Vegetable shortening is super resistant to heat, which is perfect. But if you are going to steam it when it's on the cake and you have buttercream, just aim your steam up high and try to avoid your buttercream cake. The steaming process just makes sure that you don't have any extra cornstarch, and it makes your fondant super sheen and glossy. Apply any other decorations. I've gone in with some ribbon to hide the seam of each cake tier. And your 3-tier engagement cake is done. It's time consuming, I'm not gonna lie, but it's super fun, and I think this circle pattern on the middle tier is gonna become a little staple of mine. It was way too easy to do, much easier than the quilted tool. If you guys recreate this, please tag me, #Rosie'sDessertSpot, so I can see your awesome creations as well. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe. We upload a new video every week. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.